Hey everyone, so I'm finally back with a new video here. I hope you've all been well and keeping fit and healthy in the best way that you can, of course. So I've been on a bit of a hiatus, primarily because I've been preoccupied with quite a few other things, mostly work related, right? I still have a day job. And also because in order to do this video, I wanted to make sure that I was able to show some significant amount of progress, right? So this video is going to be all about reverse dieting, and I'm going to try and make it a quick one because I just finished recording earlier my first steak, and it didn't really come out as well as it should have, in that it was just dragged on. So I'm gonna try and make this really short and concise. Okay, so if you follow me on Instagram, okay, back in July I made a comparison post showing you of the progress I made in terms of fat loss, right? It wasn't much, but there was progress, right? If you don't remember which post it is, it's this one right here. All right, so this was back in July, and now we're in September already, at the beginning of September, right? So it's been almost 2 months since that post, okay? And I feel like I've actually made quite a bit of progress. I wouldn't say a huge amount of progress, especially comparing it to my earlier stages of my weight loss journey, but there has been progress in terms of fat loss, and not just fat loss, but I've also gained some muscle. So you can probably see here, okay, I think the most obvious would be my arms. There's a little bit more definition, and thanks to the ring light here, I think it's a lot more obvious. So yeah, there's a little bit more definition in my arms. You can see, just push my hair back, you can see, the traps. They've been there for quite a while. I do have quite defined, well toned traps there, but yeah, I mean, you can definitely some tonage there, and there's more definition. Basically a combination of two. I've lost more fat, okay, in order for the muscle to be more seen, to be more visible, and also that I've actually increased my muscle mass. All right, so that's the progress that I've actually made, and because that it does take time, obviously, losing fat and building muscle takes time, so that's why this video has been delayed, right? So coming back to the whole point of this video is to explain to you how I got to this point, where I've made that considerable amount of progress, okay? Even, this long in my journey, I'm still making progress, all right? So this post here on my Instagram page obviously is trying to show you how I'm still making progress, albeit a lot slower than it used to be. And this is only natural. This is something that a lot of people, in fact, almost everyone who's ever been on a diet will experience and encounter, in that you will hit a wall, you will plateau, and your weight loss or your fat loss won't necessarily happen at the same rate it used to be, not as fast as it used to be. And you'll find that you either have to put in more work, to burn more calories, therefore be in more of a deficit, or that you have to keep lowering your calorie intake, all right? And either way you look at it, it's not ideal, obviously, right? Because how much further can you go, especially if you're already restricting your calories quite a bit, all right? You've gone from, say, 2,000 calories a day to 1,500 calories to now maybe 1,200 calories, I don't think, at least, speaking of myself, I would never be able to see myself being under 1,000 calories a day, never, okay? So this is where this whole concept of reverse dieting comes in. Now, I think some of you might have already heard of the coinage of these two terms, reverse dieting, but you don't exactly know what it is and what exactly it refers to. Is it about, the idea of calories in, calories out? Is it about just, keeping in a deficit and having to lower your calories? Or is it about changing up your lifestyle, your routine, your exercise routine, all right? And therefore maybe expanding a little bit more energy to create a deficit? Well, it's kind of a mix of both, but in a way you're looking at it or you're seeing it in a different approach. You're taking a different approach to continue to see progress. All right. So when it comes to reverse dieting, it's kind of self-explanatory. I mean, you know, the clue's in the name, all right? If you've been on a diet for an extended amount of time, all right, to lose fat, then you've most definitely been in a calorie deficit, okay? And you know that because you've lost fat, okay? So if you have been in a calorie deficit for, say, the last couple months, 3, 6 months, maybe the last year or so, okay, consistently or not, okay, as long as you've been losing fat and losing weight, you have been in a deficit, okay, there will come a point where your body just kind of slows down a little bit, and you know, for most people, you hit a wall and it just stops, okay? Fat loss still kind of occurs, but it's so slow that, you know, just on the surface, it seems that you're not really making any progress at all, okay? Or at least not as, you know, nearly anywhere near the kind of progress that you made, you know, in the earlier stages of your weight loss, right? Or your fat loss. So this is where that reverse dieting thing comes in. This is the point where you start thinking outside the box, okay? Because as I said earlier, you know, it's not ideal to have to keep lowering your calorie intake and to have to increase your energy expenditure through exercise or whatever that means, okay, in order to achieve the deficit, right? So this reverse dieting actually allows you to do the kind of complete opposite, which on the surface might actually sound counterintuitive. And you might think, hey, wait a minute, isn't weight loss all about calories in, calories out, calorie deficit to achieve weight, fat loss and so on, all right? Well, hear me out, all right? At least for the next 3-5 minutes, and I'll try and keep this short, okay? What I mean by reverse dieting here is actually trying to gradually get back in the calories that you were restricting, okay, throughout your diet phase, okay, to now putting you in a bit of a surplus, okay, not just to gain fat, although you would probably see some fat gain, but it won't necessarily happen that quick actually if you do it like really slowly and gradually. But the whole point is to put you back in a calorie deficit to then, okay, come back to being a deficit. So think of a, you know, reverse diet process or phase will be going into a surplus, calorie surplus, for a bit of a while. Okay, let's say you go into this phase for like 2-3 weeks, sometimes up to a month even. Okay, think of it as like taking a break off your diet, right? And then you go back to your diet and you be in a deficit. And at this point, okay, you would have raised your set point to a much higher level, all right, or value, okay? And when I say set point here, I mean your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, all right? So that now you can keep doing the same kind of exercises or activities, you know, keep at your usual daily activities without having to really exert more work, more effort, without putting into, you know, putting more effort into your exercises, your workouts, okay, necessarily, in order to achieve a calorie deficit. Because we know, you know, at a certain point, you can't really force your body to, you know, do more work than it already is, because we all know that that's going to be, that's going to put yourself at risk for more injury, okay? And as I said earlier, you can't keep lowering your calories to a crazy, you know, small amount, okay? So this allows you to kind of reset your BMR, basal metabolic rate, to go higher, all right? And then come back down, okay, when you're there for a little bit, and then come back down to be back in a deficit, so that you can now achieve fat loss, right? So you can achieve a deficit much easier. So the reason this happens is actually really simple, and it comes back to basic laws of physics, laws of thermodynamics, and biology. Okay, so think of it this way, all right? When you were heavier, okay, let's just use myself an example. When I was heavier, when I was at the beginning of my weight loss, you know, my heaviest was 115 kilograms. I got away with going as much as going with a 2,000 calorie diet a day, and not even having to work out as much as I am now, actually, not having to expend that much energy as I am now in order to be in a deficit. The reason being is because, purely because of my size. I just simply had more mass than I have now currently. At 115 kilograms, whatever the makeup of your mass, you're a much larger mass. I was a much larger person mass, and there was just more weight to me. All right. So think of it as like, your body like as a car. All right. The cars, sports cars like the Maseratis, the Ferraris, with the big horsepower cc's, they have big engines, all right? And in order to run that engine, to keep it running, it needs a lot of fuel. It guzzles up fuel, a ton of it, right, to cover a certain distance at a certain speed. Now compare that to like a smaller car, maybe like a 1.5cc sedan, and you drive it at the same speed to cover the same distance. It's not going to take up anywhere near the amount of fuel and energy that the Ferrari would, okay, to do the same work. So that logic then applies to us as well as human beings. In terms of laws of physics, laws of thermodynamics, the heavier the mass is, the larger the mass is, the more effort it takes to move it from A to B. And when you kind of apply it to us as human beings, you got to take into account that it's not just about movement, but it also refers to your BMR, right? So you take into account your exercise movements and your non-exercise movements. So like, if you're working out, the calories that you're burning for running a 5K at a, certain speed. And then your non-exercise activity would be like you going up and down the stairs in your house and doing housework and house chores, right? Whereas another part of that is also, which this is normally where people kind of tend to miss out on, is your BMR, right? At that bigger mass, your basal metabolic rate is higher because, simply there's more energy required by your body to operate, to run your body, to make sure that it is functioning properly and optimally. All right. So when you get smaller, as you lose your mass and you are a smaller mass now, logic dictates that it simply does not require as much energy as it used to when you were a heavier mass. Okay, and the other side of that is obviously, because I use the car analogy because it's all very relatable. All right, we're all kind of machines. The cars are machines, okay, and we're also biological machines, okay. And I say machines because machines all kind of operate in the same way that the best way that it can perform really is to be efficient in the energy expenditure. Okay, in its energy expenditure. So it will want to find a way to be very efficient at the energy that it needs to expend in order to function well. All right, so at a lighter mass, in order to function well, your body would try and figure out be at a new set point where it simply doesn't need to waste all of that energy as it would when you were a bigger mass. It's as simple as that. So it's a kind of a mix of laws of physics and us being human beings. And it's not just unique to us human beings. It actually applies to anything that moves and breathes, right? To all animals. So that is one side of it. And the other thing is why this happens, why you hit plateau and then your body adjusts and all that, is this is all just part of your intrinsic instinct to survive, right? Without this, we would have gone extinct a long time ago. Okay, so I think I probably mentioned this in my previous video on how to count calories, and I explained to you what the BMR is and all of that. So this is just part, this is evolutionary. This is part of our instinct to survive, our most basic instinct to survive as a species. Without which we would not be able to continue the species. Yeah, we would not be able to go beyond the earlier our past ancestors. So it's important, okay, because this is what biology, nature intended, okay, so you can't really avoid it, you have to kind of deal with it. But the best way to overcome this, I guess, without like cheating, or at least in a sense that you're cheating physics, you're not defying the laws of physics here, is to kind of fool your body or to kind of manipulate your body into thinking that the mass, okay, is changing, and therefore metabolically it needs to change because it needs to readjust or adapt to a new mass here, and therefore it will increase the the BMR, right? The metabolic rate, in which would dictate how much energy it requires to, allow you to function and be alive. Okay, so the trick is in that in order to do that, the only trick is that you have to do it gradually. You can't just go from 1,500 calories a day and then suddenly you go, okay, I've hit a plateau, I've hit a wall. Now I want to go straight up to 2,500 calories. You can't go just like that. More often than not, if you're gonna go, with like an immediate kind of big increase, surplus of calories like that, like 1,000 calorie increase, more likely than not, you're gonna just end up with a lot of fat gain. Okay, and imagine if you were to do that over like an extended period amount of time, like whether it's 2-3 weeks or a month, you will find yourself actually gaining quite a bit of fat. So the trick is to do it gradually, and I think the ideal kind of number would be around 100 to 200 calories, and then you go on from there, and then you kind of adjust. If you're already at a kind of a low calorie intake already, and you feel like you feel like you're gonna die, okay, because it's too low, then you obviously need to add in the calories anyway. So you go on from there, and then you start, with a little bit, you kind of add maybe 100 calories, okay? And then you see, and then you kind of adjust it to your activity levels. If you're more active and you can keep up that level of activity, then, maybe consider increasing it a little bit more from 100 to 150. Okay, so there's a lot of playing around, a lot of adjusting and readjusting, tweaking here and there. But at the end of the day, if you do this gradually and you're patient with it, it will work. It will definitely work. And, that's why it's called reverse dieting, because you kind of reverse the effect of what being in a calorie restriction puts you in. Okay, I mean, it's obviously the only way to lose fat, but at the same time, what a lot of people don't realize is that when you're lighter and you've lost all that weight, you're not going to burn the same amount of calories as you used to for doing the same thing, okay, for breathing, for being just alive, as you would have when you were a lot heavier, okay? 115 kilogram me 3 years ago would have burned a ton of more calories for walking 3 kilometers at a leisurely pace in about, say, an hour than I would today at 75 kilograms. All right, so that's basically it. I hope I've explained it well enough for you, and that you kind of, you grasp the concept well. The execution obviously is going to be different from, individual to individual, and you're going to, find, you're going to probably all going to have your own struggles to deal with, but that's the logic behind it. That's the science behind it. And as long as you understand, the physics behind it, that you cannot beat the law of physics and thermodynamics, okay? You understand that, you will find, and then you kind of think outside the box, you will find a way to get around it, and you will get around it in a way that is sustainable and that is healthy, without putting yourself at a risk of, maybe even, adverse kind of eating or disorders that some people will go through because, they lose patience and they think, I'm no longer losing fat, I'm going to have to starve myself. That's not what we want. Okay, so reverse dieting should allow for you to do this the healthy and right way. Okay, so that's all for now. I hope that was useful for you. And as always, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.